Good evening, everyone, and a very special welcome to you, including those joining us via Facebook and on YouTube Live. I am your host for today, Tamika Scott Walters, and it's always a pleasure to be with you, my family time peeps. So, you know what time it is. It is family time. And family time is about your issues and your relationships. Your family at home, yard, or abroad. International. Family Time is produced by the Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to a healthy nation. So stay with us and please join in on all our platforms, Facebook and YouTube, which we are live, and also via Instagram. I am Tamika Scott Walters, and I'm so glad that you have joined us this evening because guess what? We are going virtually to Argentina and Brazil to hear about the adventures of Missionary as our very own Nicky goes to South America. Now, remember, Nicky is one of our absolute fave, or family time host. But guess what? She's no longer here with us right now. She is off to South America as a missionary. And she has agreed to share some of her journey along with her friend Walter, who lives in Brazil, share her journey with us. But while we talk about that, we always want to hear from you. What are your questions and what do you have to say? So, the question to you today is, what is stopping you from becoming a missionary in a foreign land? Give it some thought, no? Okay. And when you do, please contact us on WhatsApp via text and send your voice notes. Remember to keep them 30 seconds or less. You may send it to 876-997-3125 or give us a call on our lines at 876-968-8327 or 968-8328 to participate. You may also watch us and comment live on the Love 101 Facebook or YouTube page. So guess what? We will be right back with our special guests, Nicole Carrera and Walter Marcondes. Don't go anywhere. Soon come.
What is church hurt? Have you ever experienced it? Is this a real thing or just an excuse not to go? How does the church deal with it and how can we avoid it? Tuesday, July 4 on The Rock, join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Errol Bean as they discuss the topic Church Hurt. That's The Rock, Tuesday, July 4 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love. Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Love 101, you're invited to listen to Good Morning Minister, a weekly feature where government ministers will speak about the development in their various ministries. Listen for the updates and have your questions and concerns ready to share inside Good Morning Minister as the Minister of Information, Robert Nesta Morgan, and a guest minister or agency head discuss the issues and take your questions and suggestions. Get ready to call in during Good Morning Minister, 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, right here on Love 101, the family station.
This Wednesday, July 5, Good Morning Minister will have as guest Mrs. Michelle McIntosh, Acting CEO of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. Good Morning Minister, Wednesday, July 5 at 11 a.m. Good Morning Minister is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. And welcome also to Nicola and Walter, our very special guest this evening. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you so much. How are
Hello,
you
I'm
doing?
well, thank you. Oh, hello, I'm well, thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Nicola and Walter, they will be with us for the remainder of today's program. Now, remember, we want to hear from you, or family time audience. Remember the question? Let me remind you, what is stopping you from being a missionary in a foreign land? Remember to share your information with us by text or voice notes. Keep them 30 seconds or less and send it to 876 997 3125. Watch us also and comment live on our YouTube or Facebook page, or give us a call on our studio lines at 876 968 8327 or 876 968 8328 to participate. Now, time flies real fast, so let's jump in. All right. So, Nicole and Walter, you are missionaries and you are in Argentina and Brazil. Now, for a lot of us, we only remember those countries when it's the World Cup and we all have our different side. But before we get to the location, I mean, who is a missionary?
Well, a missionary is someone who goes out and tells the word of God because Jesus told us to go. It's a part of the Great Commission in Matthew 28 to go and preach to the nations, and you don't have to go to the nations. It could be just down the street, but it tells us that we must go.
Okay, right. Thank you, thank you. So you have your task, and it's biblical. The Bible says to go out and we preach and
Yes.
we witness to persons. But I mean, you're so far away, many miles across the globe. How did you get to become not just a missionary, but in a faraway place? How did that happen?
It was all God. I never even expected it. I expected to just stay in Jamaica and be a local missionary there and just helping other missionaries because what I usually do is support missionaries in different parts of the world. And, I was telling one of my friends last year, just last year, months ago, he was giving me his bucket list. I teach English to some missionaries also, or people who want to be missionaries. And he was saying to me, all the places he wants to go. And I was saying, I can't do that. I don't have any money. I can't do that. And here is God sending me to South America, sent me to Brazil to work in the favelas. And now I'm back in Argentina. I'm meeting up with missionaries from Bolivia and another part of Argentina next week. Next week, time's just running. So to actually have a retreat with them there, and I'm just so amazed. I'm speechless. Usually I'm not speechless, but God has just made me speechless with this. And where He sends you, He equips you. He will find the money. You don't have to worry about it. God will open the doors.
Awesome. I'm happy you said that because I was wondering now. I recall when I think about Argentina and Brazil, there is a language barrier there. And so I wanted to find out, you are a Jamaican speaking English, unless there are some other languages you want to tell us about. Um, how does that happen? How do you bridge the language barrier?
God is humorous. He really does have a sense of humor because I work with a missionary from Costa Rica and he speaks no English. So one of the other missionaries I work with, she is a English teacher. She's from Paraguay. Her native language is Spanish, but she teaches English. So I said, you know what? I need to learn Spanish. Sorry, and I'm saying English and Spanish, but I need to learn Spanish. And so because I want to be able to communicate with Pastor Ullman. And here is God turns it around that I am meeting this very same missionary in Argentina because her husband is from Argentina and they do work in the Middle East. And I am not where I would like to be with my Spanish. And so it can be quite interesting. And so also when I went to Portuguese, people told me, well, it's similar, so they'll understand. And they do for the most part. But last week, I was in Brazil. I just came in this morning from Brazil. I found myself on a bike back, which I never thought would ever happen. And here I was on a bike back going up a steep hill in a favela, and all I'm saying to this man is, Despacio, Despacio. And I'm wondering, why is this man going faster? Why is he not slowing down? Because Despacio is slow in Spanish. And they told me they would understand in Portuguese. So I went back home and Walter was there. He was on another bike back, by the way, going up this hill.
Oh boy.
And I said to my friend, like, I was saying despacio, and she said, what? And she did not know the word. And I was like, how do you say slow in Portuguese? And she said, lentamente.
Ah,
so, so sometimes it
lesson
does not
learned.
work, but you go with the flow and you pray hard.
Lesson learned. Lesson learned. I know that won't happen to you again. So make a note of your
No,
your fast
lentamente.
and slow. Okay, thank you so much, Nicole. So Walter, Nikki shared with us that look, it wasn't something that she planned. She was in Jamaica supporting missionaries, and now she's one on her own in a faraway land. Tell us, Walter, a little bit about how you became a missionary.
Uh, this is an interesting story. Like Jesus called me when I was a teenager. So, and my father is a pastor, and my father and my mother worked in favelas here in Brazil a lot.
Oops, I think Walter is on mute. There he is.
Walter,
He's there. He's back.
we're having a
Walter,
little
can you hear?
connectivity issue with Walter. These things happen with technology, but even so, when you're connecting from so far, Walter, are
From
you able
far
to
away. He's in Rio
hear us?
de Janeiro.
Oh boy. So we'll get back to that story as soon as Walter rejoins because we're not hearing him now. But he was sharing he was called as a teen by the Lord and to ministry. So we'll hear more about that journey. But you mentioned bikes.
Hello.
Oh,
Oh,
Walter,
I
we're
was
hearing you now. Walter, so sorry you got disconnected.
I
So you
was
shared
walking.
your father was a pastor and you were called as a teen. So continue.
Okay. My father is a pastor, and he worked with my mother in favelas a lot. And as a kid, as I was growing up, I was with them, going to favelas too, speaking about God to them, to people, and things like that. So when I was a teenager, Jesus called me, and because I knew exactly what Jesus was calling me for, I said no for 10 years.
Wow.
It was a 10 years fight with God. Um, and like always, he won, and now I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. Happy to know. So Walter got his calling clear up. I mean, he tried to hide, but eventually he had to say yes. So two different journeys for Nicole and Walter. But guess what? We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, our audience. Remember to tell us what is stopping you from becoming a missionary in a foreign land. WhatsApp, text, and send your voice notes. Keep them 30 seconds or less and send to 876 997 3125. Watch us and comment live also on our Facebook and YouTube page or give us a call on our studio lines at 876 968 8327 or 876 968 8328 to participate. Now, I'm sure Nicole and Walter will be happy to respond to your questions. So remember, think of it and ask. We'll be right back.
Coming up on the next Campus Connection. Can you believe it's our final show for the season? Wow! Time flies when you're having fun. We're inviting you to join our end of year summer party and send your shout out as we close off an amazing season. We'll be reflecting on the season's journey, sharing summer activities for the family and lots of giveaways. Join us as we close out school and kickstart the fun for the summer on Tuesday, July 4 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101. Celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Plus, you know them must bring something for you. Word of the day, that is something for your youth. Bread of life, that I know my.
What is church hurt? Have you ever experienced it? Is this a real thing or just an excuse not to go? How does the church deal with it and how can we avoid it? Tuesday, July 4 on The Rock, join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Errol Bean as they discuss the topic Church Hurt. That's The Rock, Tuesday, July 4 at 10 a.m. here on the family station Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
It's beginning to look a lot like
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Tamika Scott Walters, and our very special guest today is Nicola Carrera and Walter Marcones, both missionaries in South America, and our very special guests for today. Now, remember, we want to hear from you. What is stopping you from becoming a missionary in a foreign land? Remember to WhatsApp, text, voice note, keep them 30 seconds or less, and send it to 876 997 3125. Watch us and comment live also on our YouTube or Facebook page, or give us a call on our studio lines at 876 968 8327 or 968 8328 to participate. Now, remember, we spoke to Walter and we spoke to Nicky before, and they're saying, look, their journey has been very different. I asked Nicole about the language barrier because the first thing many of us think is, I can't speak the language. So how could I possibly go to Argentina and Brazil? But Nikki, we know apart from the language difference, there's so many other factors. So I would love if you both could share with us what exactly is the life of a missionary? What is it really like?
Well, I have learned, my missionary friends have told me that I need to be fat, which is flexible, adaptable, and teachable. And so I've been learning that a lot on my journey to South America. It's simple things which you may not even think about, like flushing toilet paper. In Argentina, you can flush toilet paper in the toilet. In Brazil, you can't. And so that was uh, kind of scary for me because the bathroom is a time where I like to relax. And, this is where I hear from God. I wasn't hearing much from God in Brazil because I was always on alert
Oh
to
boy.
where I put the toilet paper. And I'm going to tell you a couple times my hand got in the toilet,
Yeah, I can
taking out
imagine.
toilet paper
Yeah.
because I didn't want to cause a major disaster by
Wow.
blocking up toilet systems. And so, it's so I'm just learning this. Just recently, I wanted a rag, a wash rag, and finding a rash wash rag, sorry, in South America. Well, where I am in Brazil and Argentina, it has been very difficult to actually do that, because that's not a normal thing. Even Walter, my other friend, was telling me, yeah, we don't really use wash rags here, and so things that we just take for granted. We need to recognize that when we do go to other countries, what is normal to us might not be normal to them. So we do have to be flexible, adaptable, and teachable.
Got it. I mean, I'm here and I can't imagine. I want to ask because I can't help. So where does the tissue go if not in if not in the toilet?
It
And
goes in the garbage bin that's
oh
beside
my,
the toilet. They're everywhere.
Yes, it is. A lot of people talks about that. You can see on the internet a lot of people telling about that we put the toilet paper on the trash that is beside on the
The toilet.
of the toilet. Yeah, because if you put the toilet paper in the toilet, it will not go like it will be a
I
mess.
heard it
It
won't go
will
well.
be it will be really a mess. So that's why we have this trash bin. It's not for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah, this Jamaican did not want to be causing that mess, so my hand had to go in the toilet. I'm so sorry, and, and retrieve what was there.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, so it was very interesting, and there are so many things that I keep on learning, and people are different in different areas. The way we talk is different. The way we relate to each other, because Jamaicans tend to be more forthright, and like, we like to speak our minds, and sometimes we just cannot speak our minds in certain places the way we would want to, because that would be considered rude. And you don't want to go into other people's places and countries and actually disrespect them. So we have to learn from others how to actually to just get together, how to work with each other.
sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Even though you can call on me, I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text, or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Coming up on the next Campus Connection. Can you believe it's our final show for this season? Wow! Time flies when you're having fun. We're inviting you to join our end of year summer party and send your shout outs as we close off an amazing season. We'll be reflecting on the season's journey, sharing summer activities for the family, and lots of giveaways. Join us as we close out school and kickstart the fun for the summer on Tuesday, July 4 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101. Celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Plus, you know them must bring something for you. Word of the day that has something for your youth. Bread of life that I know my.
Are you ready for a prophetic encounter? Join the Gifted Network for the National Prophetic Summit, July 14 to 15 at the Ambassadors, 63 Hagley Park Road, Kingston, featuring special guests, Prophet Lovi Elias, pastor and founder of Revelation Church LA, Prophets Chambray and Jaquan Gamble, and more. Be a part of this unforgettable event. 2 power-packed days of dynamic prophetic teachings. The National Prophetic Summit, July 14 to 15, Kingston. Get your tickets and learn more at thegiftednetwork.net or WhatsApp 876-404-2535.
Make money now with local City and Guilds and ABE and Guild certificates and Distinction College. Start new online and face-to-face classes very soon. Make money now career courses and get qualified jobs worldwide or start your own business in practical pediatric, geriatric, and psychiatric nursing, phlebotomy and pharmacy technician, early childhood education, childcare, cashiering, call center, event planning, receptionist, customer service, housekeeping, laboring, food preparation, bartending, cake baking, plumbing, modern labor, electrical installation, air conditioning, makeup, hairdressing, nail technician, and cosmetology. No subjects required, no age limits. Register this week and get City and Guilds Maths and English classes for free. Call us at 3564167.
Welcome back to all our listeners, whether you are joining us on Love 101 FM or on our YouTube or Facebook page. Let me apologize for the technical difficulties that we have been experiencing. I know I would have lost connectivity earlier, but guess what? We press forward with our very special guests today, Nicole and Walter, who are missionaries in Brazil and Argentina. And I know just before, the last thing I heard, you were sharing with me your missionary journey, what it's really like, the cultural differences, the language barrier. So please do continue because it's most interesting to us and our listeners.
Well, sometimes I don't even know how God called me to this because I'm not really, I'm not really the adventurous person. I'm finding myself planning out things. I wouldn't call myself adventurous. I grew up quite sheltered, but God is brocking me out. That I would not be the type of person to be on a bike back. And we were mentioning favelas earlier. I think also God equips us for where he wants to take us, because I worked for 9 years in inner city communities. And what a favela is, and that's in Jamaica, what a favela is basically an inner city community. And that's what they call favelas there. And I was in 2 different places in Brazil. I was in Sao Paulo first, and I worked with a ministry there, which partnered with OM, which is Operation Mobilization, who brings in the book ship, they call it the book ship, the logo ship to Jamaica. And they have been very helpful to me in my journey in the inner city. They had come in, built a house for someone at my church, and they did prayer walks, and they did so many things. And so my working in a favela in Sao Paulo through an OM partnership was me giving back. And the Brazilians were so helpful on that trip, when they came. Awesome. And so it was amazing to see when I went into the favelas. I was like, this is like Jamaica. Wow. In Sao Paulo. In Sao Paulo. Because not only do we have to recognize that cultures are different, like uptown is different from downtown
Yeah.
Kingston.
Yeah.
So I had to learn the culture of downtown Kingston. Different inner city communities have different cultures.
Different
So we
culture.
have to learn it, because I was in Southside and Tel Aviv. And although they're parade gardens, one community, we have to recognize also that each community, although beside each other, they have a different culture, and we need to respect that. And so, in Sao Paulo, I saw drug dealers. They were just beside me dealing drugs, where I would not see that in Jamaica. And so that was a big difference for me. But it was more of a feel of an inner city community in Jamaica. Going to Rio, however, was something totally different. I went to church with
Rio
Walter.
is in Brazil still, so still
Rio,
a part of
yes,
that
De
too.
Janeiro, yes. And that was an eye opener. I went to share my testimony at a church where Walter works in this favela. And I'd seen a bunch of police officers with some big guns, guns that I'd never seen before. But I'm used to police doing operations. So that to me was nothing. But when I walked into the community, there I saw a gangster standing up with his hand across this biggest gun I have ever seen. And I'm like, hold on, Walter, so the police cannot come in here? And he's like, well, now you know the line. So
Yeah,
no, we knew that. And we were walking to church, and I saw another one with another gun. And I was
yeah,
walking, and I saw another one with another gun. And that does not happen in Jamaica. And I went into another favela where I was on bike back in Rio, and I was just seeing all these men just as we walked these little alleyways. Because what happened is I wanted to see a painting, because someone from England who painted downtown with me actually did a painting of one of my kids from downtown in Rio. And I'm like, I have to see this. So we went through, this is one of the worst favelas in Rio, and there was a police shooting the day before, and we were walking along these small alleyways going uphill, and they're just men lined with guns and walkie-talkies along the way. And I was like, Botarji, because man with a big gun, I'm being nice to you. So I was just saying good afternoon to everyone. My
Ah,
Portuguese started
yeah,
working then.
yes, activating your second language. But
Yes.
really so happy to hear, Nicole, when you shared there's a difference of not just the country, but the difference within communities that you
Yes.
operate. And thank God for Walter, who is there to just share and explain with you. But I noticed you mentioned a lot about traveling via bikes. Is that the main mode of transportation? Or
yeah.
are
Right.
the communities just so small that they're not open to
Yeah,
vehicles, motor vehicles?
in the community, there is a lot of houses, one on top of each other. They are on the mountains. Most of them are on the mountains, so it's hard to get by car. So that's why people normally use bikes. But there are a line that divides where you can use a bike and where you need to go walking. And there are places that even bikes don't go. So you need to go up, go by stairs, just walking, going uphill.
Okay.
Uh, some very big mountains. Sometimes you spend like half a day just going up, and then the other half a day going down.
Wow, that's a lot.
um,
That's a
yeah,
lot of traveling, a lot of steps. So we know that, Nicole, we know you're getting in your steps and your exercise.
I
But
got a lot of
based
exercise.
on what you explained just now, what does that mean for accommodation for you as missionaries? Where do you stay? How is it? What is your setting? Do you stay someplace else that has customary settings like your home, or are you guys staying within these communities?
Well, it depends on the missionary. For me, the ministry in Sao Paulo, they set up a place for me to stay. Uh, in Rio, I actually stayed with my friends, and because I was doing more independent work there, so I went out after with Walter and with my friends going into the different communities. So it was safer for me where I was staying. But there are some missionaries who actually stay in the community because Walter had brought me to a place called Borel, where there's Jocum, they call it in Brazil Jocum,
Yeah.
which is actually YWAM. We
Well,
call it YWAM. And they are in a community that was once considered one of the worst in, they said, not only Rio but Brazil in the 1990s, but now it has been transformed. And one of the reasons why it has been transformed is because missionaries decided to come there and stay there. And Jocum is right in the heart of this, and now they even have preschools and all these things going on. And there's a big change in the community because these Christians decided to stay and live in the community.
Awesome. Happy. We are thankful for the transformation. So we see the work of missionaries and how it has transformed the lives. A community that was, look, what we would call bad, worse and worse, has been transformed to God's glory. And so Walter, I mean, this transformation that God called you to be a part of as you were saved in your teen years, and you were very clear on the direction you needed to go, you would have run, could no longer outrun God. But what I wanted to know, Walter, share with us what brought you to finally act in obedience and to accept that path that you were called to.
mm. At first, a very small paper calling me to go to the seminary. It was the end of line for me of that fight I was with God, you know. And I entered on the seminary, on the seminary school.
So seminary
Um,
for us, Walter, would be like Bible school. That's where
Bible,
ministers goes to be trained. Ministers go to be
yes, for
all
sure,
right.
yes, yes. And God sended me a couple of missionaries that found me. They came from United States to Rio, and they were working. Those missionaries were working with prostitutes here. They were working with kids, and they were working with people that were in drugs. Now they are not here anymore, but they showed up, and then they brought me to this place there, in a favela, in an inner city community. And this place were just with the kids. They work with kids. So I started there. I stayed there for a year, and then I started. Um, I made I made tests to go to the seminary, to biblical school,
Yeah,
and then a lot of things happening. A
a
lot
lot
of things
happened.
happened. Yeah, but that was the start of my ministry.
You could no longer escape us. So where you failed to respond, God sent persons to you, and
Yeah.
you went right into the heart of the communities and got to working. Now I can see here we have a question from one of our listeners. It says, "Can you recall an experience where you questioned whether your decision to become a missionary, or how did God reconfirm your decision to his calling?" Can you recall an experience where you questioned?
Yeah.
You share, share with us.
Yes.
How
Let
did
me tell
God
you,
reconfirm your decision to His calling?
interestingly, the confirmation has been coming. No. Um, in Jamaica, I did a ministry that was based on out of New York, and my roommates had worked. Well, one roommate had worked with this ministry in New York, and it was with the kids. So I was doing this with the kids in the inner city community, and I just had a hard time. I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm not hearing God because no one is being transformed. What's going on? After 9 years, God moved me to the ministry I'm in, where I'm doing missionary with other missionary work, supporting other missionaries. And now He brought me here to South America. Here's the interesting thing. I go to Sao Paulo. I'm working with the ministry there, and they have American missionaries again came that supports the missionary. The last week I was there, and so they were doing everything with them. I was doing a lot of the house visits, walking around the favelas, talking to people, praying with them, giving testimonies. But this day I was there with the kids, and they call it ajitas. And when I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute. This is what I'm doing in Jamaica. This is what I was doing in Jamaica. And I'm like, and I went to one of the founders because I thought the Americans brought it in, and they were like, no, 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 no. This has been here a long time. So I went to one of the founders in the ministry. I said, where did you get this ministry from? She said, I went to, yeah, it's from another place. And it's like, both of us, we said New York at the same time. And I'm like, this is the program I was doing in Jamaica. And I did not feel that it was working. And I just felt that God showed me that it is not that the program wasn't working, it's just how it was being done, because they had a team and people are being transformed so much in these favelas in Sao Paulo. They have an orchestra at the church where the children are playing violin and musical instruments. I don't even know that big thing that looks like a violin, and saxophones and guitars and all these things. And the people who were affected from years ago in the favelas by this ministry are now leading this ministry. And they're doing capoeira, and they're doing Muay Thai, and they're doing all these different things. They're teaching them English. So children were coming up to me and saying, what's your name? And they were so happy to know that I spoke English. And so I felt God showing me, it's like that, yes, this is what I wanted you to do. But how you're doing it, you can't be a one-man band. You have to be a team. So yeah, God has definitely done that.
Yeah, I love that story, that journey. So I just want to encourage our listeners. Look, sometimes the calling that you get, you may not be sure, but it will all connect. The pieces will connect
Right.
after. So maybe you're on a path now that you're in doubt, you question yourself about the decision, whether it's your calling. You're not connecting, you're not getting through. But in the end, there will be a confirmation, and He will make His word and way absolutely
Hallelujah.
clear.
Yes.
So we thank God for that. You shared about the language barrier, the cultural differences, and you know that I have to speak for Jamaicans, our listeners, all the family time peeps. When I ask now, so what about the food? Because we're serious about our food. So please share about
Serious.
that experience as it relates to having food in a different far away place. What is that like, that experience like for you?
All right, so Argentina, not Jamaica. So I'm like, where the hot sauce? Give me something spicy, guys. Even today, I went to the supermarket. I had to get something. I don't even know what I got, seriously, because I can't even find hot sauce. So it's different here. And we like our meat well cooked. You better tell them you want it well cooked, because you will get some pink meat coming at you. So, and even that happened to me in Brazil. Brazil, however, the foods are very similar in some ways, like Jamaican food. I was eating one day, the lady I stayed with, she gave me lunch, and I was like, this tastes like Jamaica. And I was just so happy. I was eating so much stuff. I had to get antacid in Brazil because I'm like,
Oh,
I have not stopped eating. And then the fruits are amazing. Like I saw a big mango. I've never seen a mango that big in my life. So
She's
Brazil, like they have so many different types of fruits. You see sweets up. You see sweets up in this different forms, like they're huge. So they have the different forms of foods and so I was loving Brazil, just the foods and everything. Argentina, I have to find, I have to search, and hard. So I brought back some curry powder from Brazil because
ah.
it's harder to find things in Argentina, even though it's just across the border. But it's a different culture.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Nikki is almost convincing me that Jamaica is a little part of Brazil.
Yes, I am because I'm like it's like Jamaica.
I can tell, I can see your excitement, and I can hear how excited you get about the food.
The
When
food is
you
good.
get the food that makes you feel at home,
Makes me
because as
happy.
missionaries you are away from your family. Walter, when you took on the task of becoming a missionary, that experience about being in a different place, whether it was the food or the culture, just being away from your family, how did you cope with that experience?
Like I told you, I am here in Brazil since I was born, but I managed to I managed to get out of Brazil last year. So I went to Turkey and Greece, and I went very far from my family. Um, and there were different food, different people, different culture, different everything. And um, like it, it lasted for me like 1 week or two for me
Ah,
to started feel um miss my family, you know.
I got it. I got it. We are going to pick up on that point when we return with you, Walter, because guess what? What time is it? It's time for a break. And just so you know, remember, listeners, the numbers for the Family Life head office in Kingston are 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. We will be back. And when we get back, we just want to share, continue to share with our special guest today. So call a friend, tell them to join in. We'll be right back.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with Attorney at Law Stokely Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Darlene Toussaint. Every Wednesday, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Chris and Charles. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles. Every first and third Wednesday, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Home and Things. Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station, Love 101. Building your house and looking for everything in hardware from ground to roof? Save the hassle. It's Robinson and Sons Hardware, dedicated to giving you the best. Call Robinson and Sons Hardware 876-715-1724 or visit 18 West Palm Avenue, Port Antonio, Portland. If we don't have it, we'll get it for you. Robinson and Sons Hardware, Port Antonio, Portland, dedicated to giving you the best. 876-715-1724.
Welcome back, everyone. Remember, our question to you today is, what is stopping you from becoming a missionary in a foreign land? And remember, a very special guest today, Nicole and Walter, who are missionaries in Brazil and Argentina. We want to hear from you, our listeners. So please reach out, send your text, send your voice notes, send your questions, and we will be happy to share. Now, Walter, you were talking about before we went to the break about, when you missed your family. Um, so you miss your family when you're away for a week or two. But I know sometimes you may still be in Brazil, you may be in different communities. Um, how do you operate? Because I know sometimes there's not just barriers and differences between countries, but within communities. So, how do you manage that interaction, Walter?
Oh, that is hard. Because Rio de Janeiro have a very different culture in different parts of Rio. Nicky saw that. Each part of Rio that you are, people act differently, people live differently, people think differently. There are different types of cultures inside of Rio. So these interactions gave me the ability to understand a little bit about cultures, and so I learned a lot about favelas because, like I said, I went with my father and my mother to favelas in churches and in people's house with kids. I played with kids there when I was a little kid, and because of that, I know a lot about a culture of those communities.
Okay.
Uh,
Is there any way, Walter, that do we have to? I know Nikki can understand for this part. Do you have to be careful what you say to someone in one community versus another community,
for
or what
sure,
colors you may wear and
yeah,
what those colors may represent?
for sure, for sure. There is some things that you need to care about. You need to be very careful. If you understand that you are not there to convince anyone, that you are there just to preach about Jesus Christ, so you will not have problem, because this is the work, to preach about Jesus Christ. If you start to preach against people, against what they are doing, so something something bad will happen. So you need to really know you really need to know what you are doing there. No, you can't just go, oh no, I think I will pass some time in a community.
Yeah, you
This
keep
is not a wise
focused.
decision.
Keep focus, even
Keep
though you may
focused.
see other things happening and taking place.
Yes,
You pray about it. You keep focus. You don't go to get involved, whether it is guns or drugs or um
or whatever.
quarrels,
You
whatever
can,
it is. You preach the
yeah,
gospel of
you can
Christ.
see a lot of things in a community in Rio. A lot of things. Nikki told already about some things that you can see there. There is a lot more things that happens there. So um, you need to understand really what God wants. And people there, the gangsters. This is interesting. The gangsters hears us. They hears us. If you stop and start to talk with some gangster, he will stop and listen to you.
Ah,
He will stop and
amazing
listen
work.
to you.
Yeah. So you're at the core. You are taking the gospel to places where it is, to the places and to the people where it is most needed. I know we've asked our listeners what is stopping you from becoming a missionary in a foreign land. And as I think about the question, I can't help but ask about money, because I know it's one of the first things that will come at the forefront of our mind when we think about financing a missionary trip. I know you shared earlier, Nikki, there are partnerships, but how does one think about becoming a missionary, leaving perhaps their 9 to 5 job that they're doing, and how will they finance themselves and live? So share with us that side of the story as it relates to money and the missionary.
You know, really, you have to make sure that it's God, that, God is sending you, and you're not acting on your emotions, and you're not just doing it because, oh, I just always wanted to do this. When God sends you, it's up to Him to fund you. So you don't have to really worry so much. He will guide you into what to do. Folks just came and gave me money to actually come to South America. I wasn't even trying to come to South America, but I know God wanted me here. So since God wanted me here, it's up to Him to do it. So, and He has been doing it all the way. And people have just come up, people who I have not met in Brazil, like a missionary group was there, and someone came up and just gave me money, like God said, you put this on my heart. They said they never saw anyone do what I did before, because I work independent. I'm not going with a missions group or anything, except I went through in Sao Paulo, I went through OM, but I'm doing all this by myself. And they're like, we felt we needed to give you some money, and they blessed me. So God sends people. And I would say to support us, when God puts a missionary on your mind, on your heart, don't hold back. Do it. Just give, because those people need it. I know in Jamaica it was so hard. There are times when I didn't have food in the cupboard, but then I'm like, Lord, you told me
Yeah.
to do this. And then there comes a knock on the door from a neighbor or someone, and they're like, Nikki, we have this for you. And I'm like, oh God, go. So God will make the way.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
Make sure the calling is from God, because if He calls
Yes.
you and you respond to His call, He will cover you and He'll care for
Amen.
you from a pin to an anchor. Whatever your needs are, they will be met. I know we're winding down for today's program, and so I just want you both to share. If it is someone is thinking about taking on this journey, what is some uplifting word, or whether it is an experience that you guys would have had as well, to just share with someone who is thinking about taking this step?
I would say, before, as again, make sure that it is God. And when it is God, don't be afraid. Step out in faith. I told God that if He wants me to come to South America, He has to organize everything. I was in there talking to God in a prayer. I went into my devotions right after that. And the first thing in my devotions is, do not wait for everything to line up. Make that move. And that's what I'm doing. And God has been just taking care of me all the way. So do not be afraid. Step out in faith, and God will keep you in ways you would never imagine.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Walter. My question to you: give us a tip, because you've been in this thing for a while now. You're what we would call a veteran. Give us a tip that you could share with someone who is considering becoming a missionary.
His shepherd, hear his voice and follow him. If you are his shepherd, you need to know how to hear him. And you need to know his voice, and you need to know what God wants for you. When I was called, first of all, when I was called, I had um, I had my questions. Then he repeatedly said the same thing again and again and again and again. You know.
Ah, that's a big one. That's a big one,
So
Walter. Look, Walter, Nicole, I know we are at the end of the program, but we want to thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The
Thanks for
tip
having
from
us.
You are most welcome. The tip from Walter: look, you need to know to hear the voice of God. If He
Amen.
is your shepherd, and you're the sheep, you have to know his voice. So thank you again so much,
Two
Nicky, for
Thank
two
sharing
more
with
you.
us.
tips. Two more tips. I want to say.
All right, Walter, but guess
Know
what?
about the
We are pressed for time, so let me have it quickly. 2 words.
very quickly. Know about the culture and the people. Love the people in the culture.
Love
And
the
here,
people.
yeah, and here the missionaries that are there already
All
because they
right.
know more than you.
Listen to those who have charted the way before, get connected to them. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have questions of a personal nature, or you are concerned about a family member or a friend, remember to call the Family Life Ministries. Or information for our head office in Kingston is 876-920-1034, or you could call 876-926-8101. Please remember that appointments can only be made by calling the office. Otherwise, to keep up to date with what's happening with family life and our programs, find us on Facebook at Family Life Ministries, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA. Now, the Family Life Ministries Portmore location is closed, so be sure to reach out to the Kingston office. Before we leave today, here is this evening's Bible verse, Philippians 4, verse 13. I can endure all these things through the power of the one who gives me strength. Join us again next week at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101 FM, on our Facebook and YouTube page, and via the Love 101 channel for all informations and for another informative program. Thanks again to our special guest, Missionaries Nicola Carrera, who is now in Argentina, and Walter Marcondes, who is in Brazil. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale, Open Door Communications, and studio facilitator, Timoy Butler, and of course, you, our listeners and viewers. Stay safe, stay well, and stay blessed. I'm Tamika. See you next time.